Hello everyone! As of recording this intro, it has now been 408 days ago since I hit 500 subscribers. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I hit 500 subscribers, I decided to create my own dice for random dice. But now 408 days later, I decided that I'm going to be making my own random dice defense battlefield. And it is also going to be matching with the bunny dice that I created when I did hit 500 subscribers. But the main reason I'm doing this now is because I just released part 1 of a random dice defense battlefield tier list. But anyways, let's get straight into Photoshop. So the first thing that I had to do when making this was basically to create a new project in Photoshop. I decided to make it 2000 x 800. Now this is a little bit bigger than what the battlefields usually are. I think they are a little bit smaller usually, but it really is not that big of a difference. Next up, I wanted to have a reference for making my own battlefield. So I decided to pick Goldmine for that, mainly because I really like the layout and I think the board looks really good, honestly. After I put Goldmine in, it was time to start working on our own design. So I decided to start creating and placing all the different dice spots on the battlefield. Next up, it was time for the board itself, basically the part that surrounds all the dice spots. But so I decided to start by making them white and black, as I had not really decided what color theme that I was going to go with. After that, I made something to attach the board to on the bottom, and right after that I simply just came to the conclusion that putting grass around the entire thing would be a good idea. And as you will see later, and probably figured out already just by seeing this, is that the board eventually turns into a nature-like thing. But so when I was finished putting grass straws around the entire thing, it was time to pick some colors for the main board itself. So I really wasn't sure how to make this look as good as possible, but so I just ended up mixing around with a bunch of different brown colors to make it look as much as dirt as possible. I also messed around with some patterns and all these different things really. And when that was done, I decided to give the dice slots a bit of depth and basically make them stand out a bit more and thereby make them look a bit more realistic and more in place. And when that was done, it was time to finish the layout itself of the board by making the bottom of it brown as well. And then I decided to add some roots and rocks on the bottom of it, basically making it look like the dice that would be placed on the board would be on a dirt platform with different things growing on it, almost as if the dice are growing on the board itself. But that wasn't exactly what I intended to make it look like, even though I sort of think it looks like that now afterwards. When I had finished all of this, I honestly thought the board started to look quite nice. But obviously I needed a background for this board, otherwise I think it would have looked quite silly if it was just a dirt board with grass floating in a white void. So I started by adding grass to both sides of it and carefully placing and aligning them with the board itself. Then I decided to add some sort of underground theme and basically make it darker and thereby give a feeling of a sort of more damp and dark part of the underground. So simply just intending that it was a bit deeper down. I also decided to add a bit of surface to it and also adjust the grass on both sides a little bit extra. After that, I added a blue sky to it because I thought it brightened up the board quite a bit and made it look more alive. The thing I decided to do next was add a little bit more texture to the grass and main board itself, mainly because I thought it looked a little bit boring and quite simple. So I decided to add some more texture and make the dice spots pop a little bit extra. When I was done with this, I wanted to add some carrots to the board as well. This far into the making of the board, I still had not come up with a name for it, but since it was supposed to be related to the bunny dice that I made in the 500 subscriber special, it obviously had to include at least some carrots, right? When I was done with that, I decided to make my own sun to make it look a little bit extra like an outside world, even though it was quite a bit obvious. It was mainly just to fill up some empty space, really. And when I decided to make half the board a little bit extra bright from the sun, I randomly came up with the idea of making the other side a bit darker and more night themed. So I added a black background to it and some shadow. This was not something that I planned up until that point, but I really think it gave the board some extra personality. Once that was done, I drew and added some stars to it and decided to import a moon as well. If one of the halves has a sun and looks really bright, I think it just makes sense to have a moon and some darkness on the other side. And then since I had stars on one of the parts of the board, I wanted to have something in the sky on the other one, so I simply just added some clouds to it. something that I came up with after that was to just add the bunny dice icon, or, well, the icon that is more known as the Tigi icon, I suppose. I don't really know. Either way, I decided to add 2 spots of it on the board, implying that they had some sort of effect on the board, although I still had not really figured out what that was going to be. But so I added a white one on the dark side and a dark one on the bright side, if you could say that. You know, I hope you get what I mean. Reason for this being that I really just thought it was a fun thing to put them on the opposite sides, but it really didn't necessarily have to be that way. And then out of nowhere, I thought the board looked a little bit boring, so I straight up just decided to switch up the entire right half of the board, and I started creating a beach. And I honestly don't really know how I came up with that idea, but it literally just snapped in my head from nowhere, and I started working on it. So I made a beach, and I honestly think it came out quite well. And then I added some water in the back and tried to make it look as nice as I could. And I thought it just made sense to have some green parts on the right half as well, since the right side had it as well. The main thing I wanted to do was to get rid of the brown that I thought covered the entire thing. I also absolutely love being on the beach during nighttime. I haven't done it many times, but the few times I have, it is just a magical experience and I absolutely love it. So I'm honestly really happy that I came up with the idea for this board, and yeah, pretty much just decided to make it that way. But so when I had added the palm trees, I thought it looked a little bit empty in comparison to the left side. So I decided to add some rocks under the sand, and I tried to make them as yellow and as fitting as possible for them to not stand out all that much. I then decided to change half of the board itself and make it fit the right side more, because I still thought there was a little bit too much of one color in the image. Once that was done, I wasn't really sure what to do, but I finally decided to add a tree to the bright and sunny side. Since the left side had palm trees, I just thought it would fit, honestly. And when that was done, I decided to add some seashells to the beach, because I honestly just thought it would really fit with a beach, I suppose. And there we have the finished and final product of the landscape board. I decided to name this board the landscape board, mainly because I thought it was fitting with bunnies, and also because it has 2 different landscapes, and I really just thought it was a fitting name for the board. So that right there is the landscape board, and it is compatible with the bunny dice that also is not in the game, as you already know. I don't know why I'm saying this. And this is what the board would look like with the bunny dice on it. I just decided to add it in there just to give you an idea of how the board looks with it. I don't really know. They're compatible, as I said. And to be honest, they don't look that good together. One of them is purple, and there is literally no other purple in the entire image, but I honestly don't think it looks all that horrible. It looks decent, I think. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this different type of a video than I usually make. As I said earlier, it was a recreation of the old video that I made, but with a battlefield this time, since I figured it would be quite fitting now that I'm already doing a battlefield tier list. But that is all I got really. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Take care, stay safe, and later.